Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. I'm Matt and we're going to be looking at Justice League The Omega Act Issue 1 by Joshua Williamson, Yasmin Putri and Sian Tormey. The final prelude before next week's DCKO starts here, as years before the destruction of Krypton, Lara and surprisingly Ursa both travel an uninhabited zone of their planet. Lara wishes that space travel wasn't illegal on their planet, desperately wanting to explore the cosmos and see different coloured suns and worlds. Ursa implores her friend to hurry up, since if their parents catch them, they'll be surely punished. So leading up to DCKO being announced, I had heard that there would be some sort of event that would tie Krypton's past and like what happened to it and its secrets to the event. Being this is a Superman-centric event, I kind of expected something like that, but I didn't expect to see a flashback of Lara's childhood, let alone her being friends with Ursa, Zod's future wife, which to my knowledge hasn't been revealed before now. I don't think it was ever mentioned that they were friends before. I think they were acquaintances, but not like childhood friends. It's a cool little connection, since Williamson is also writing the upcoming return of Zod in the pages of the Superman ongoing. I have to feel this is like his way in, sort of to have that sort of deeper connection to the L's and the Zods. Lara knows that it's their last chance to explore this place before she begins her work in the archives tomorrow, and Ursa leaves for the military academy. They enter a destroyed building filled with technology from other worlds, signaling that this is from before Krypton banned interstellar travel and communications with other worlds. Lara cites how a monster seemingly caused all of the damage inside the lab, as Ursa finds some data pads which tell the story of an ultimate weapon. Through visual cues, we do indeed see that weapon is Doomsday, and this also sort of combines the old school Doomsday origin and the newer stuff that Dan Waters alluded to in the Doomsday special from 2 years ago? Stuff like tying it deeper in with the old gods and how Krypton used to worship them before the scientists created a devil creature. I loved all of that new stuff, since it was just so vague and mysterious, and I added a bit of reverence to the character that Doomsday was lacking up until now. So I think it's great that Williamson looks to be continuing what Dan Waters did back then. Ursa realizes that this is no weapon, it's a soldier, as in the present, Time Trapper, the being formerly known as Doomsday, ponders that he never saw himself there helping the heroes, let alone helping decide the fate of the universe. Booster Gold interrupts his pondering to ask if he thinks the heroes will listen to him, but Trapper doesn't think so, especially given the history he has with Superman. Booster is well aware of their history, being that he was present for most of it, but he knows that Superman sees the best in everyone. And even now, he's calling all of the heroes from across the world to the Watchtower, signaling that he knows that this is a big deal. I have loved what Williamson has been doing with Doomsday, giving this being whose entire creation was just a marketing stunt, and actually having him be in a meaningful, and let's be honest, have that first character development he's ever had. He's had stories tried to be written about him in the past, but they've never really landed. But here it's just like such a drastic change and adds so much to the character, and uses not only the abilities he was given, but also these new abilities that Williamson is tapping into with the Time Trapper persona really well. Trapper is well aware of the heroes gathering, remembering the last time that happened, Darkseid was killed and his Omega energies were blasted out across the universe, affecting many heroes, villains, and everyone in between. Time Trapper also remembers sending Superman to find Booster Gold in the future so he would finally see what they're up against, but he did not listen to him. Trapper believes that this was all a mistake and they should all leave before it's too late. Booster refuses to do that, going to talk with Superman about using himself as bait, seeing he is the final piece of the Omega energy that Darkseid needs. Time suddenly slows thanks to Trapper, who wants Booster to listen, since recent fights with Gorilla Grodd have broken time itself, and Booster's chronal and Omega energy are just enough for both of them to escape to safety. Booster becomes enraged at the thought of cowardly abandoning all his friends and heroes, wanting to tell them and show them what is coming, and let them decide what to do themselves. I really like the dichotomy between Booster and Trapper here, both characters I didn't think we'd be getting a lot of throughout this entire run, but it's great. But both were born at this time in the 90s where superheroes were changing, so you had them both representing extreme ends of the spectrum. Booster Gold is the hero who worships, the old school heroes, these heroes of legend, and he loves them and what they are and what they stand for. And then you have Time Trapper, or Doomsday, who was this rather edgy, quote-unquote, new creation that wanted the old guard dead, which famously led to the reign of the Supermen and the four wildly different new Supermen of the 90s. Great Williamson is playing with that here in a modern setting and how really nothing has changed when you look at it. You know, there's this new thing that comes along and it looks to stop the old school heroes. They always win at the end of the day, and that's actually something a Booster Gold says right here. He knows these heroes are the greatest to ever live, and he knows they always win. But Trapper tires of Booster's argument, wanting to show him the so-called future he thinks he knows. As he drags Booster into a portal, a Flash speeds in behind them, having seen Trapper slowing time, and since he didn't trust him, he evaded his time bubble. Trapper doesn't care, wanting the Flash to see this also as he takes them all to the 853rd century, where the Justice Legion Alpha battle the Absolute Legion, and are clearly losing. Booster and Flash want to help, but Trapper yanks them back through time, citing how their tour is far from over. Trapper shows the heroes that the Legion are attacking all possible futures and timelines, making sure that all futures lead to Darkseid. I really do like the idea that instead of just outrightly fighting the League and then probably losing like he's done in the past, the Darkseid is attacking everyone but them. It's a smart idea for a plan, slowly taking apart the team in the futures to ensure no matter what they do in the present, it always leads to that same outcome, which is him. Trapper tells Booster that once the futures are all destroyed, only then will the Legion attack the present and they will stand no chance against them. Booster though doesn't care, wanting to fight them head on, and he just about gets his wish as the Legion discover Trapper's tiny hidey hole in time, ripping into it to confront the heroes. Back in the past on Krypton, Lara and Ursa continue their search of the ancient lab, and Lara wonders if Ursa should go to the military instead of joining her in the archives, but the woman wants to go to the army, citing how Lara is obsessed with the past, but she lives in the present, a present which needs to be protected any way possible. They soon hear a growling and are attacked by some Doom Hounds, the very same ones we saw back in that Dan Waters Doomsday special the villain had with him in Hell. The creatures slash Lara's rocket pack, making it so she can't escape, so Ursula has to carry her on her own jetpack, however it cannot lift the both of them. Lara spots a tunnel leading downward into a dark underground cavern, urging Ursa to head to the deep underground chamber. This is where things get really interesting as the women find themselves in a room filled with very familiar items, things that probably should not exist on Krypton. Things like a mother box, a Green Lantern battery, a pair of Thanagarian wings, and much more. This really made me sit up since this is kind of a big deal. This opens up so much new lore and history on Krypton, and hopefully we get to explore that outside of DCKO and kind of do a deep dive into what this all means, because it definitely means something. This is setting up something for DCKO. Along with the artifacts, they find a giant doorway with a giant Omega symbol on it, along with writing that translates to King Omega on it. Next to the door they see a heart, which seems to call out to Lara as it says Darkseid is. So from the solicitations, I believe this is the Heart of Apocalypse, and it's actually the thing that seemingly transforms Earth into the arena for DCKO. I have no idea how it got off the planet Krypton, because obviously Krypton was destroyed, so I'm sure that's going to be in the opening pages of DCKO how that works out. Ursa grabs Lara, pulling her away from the heart as they continue to try and find a way home. Back in the timeline, Booster, Flash, and Time Trapper battle the Absolute Legion, and Booster wants to get back to the Justice League, but Flash knows they need to take the villains somewhere else, somewhere Darkseid cannot go. The Absolute Legion know they cannot escape Darkseid's reach, since he's everywhere and time belongs to him now. Trapper demands that he be taken to confront Darkseid then, but instead he is blasted into the ground as Flash and Booster are both captured by the Legions. Having recaptured Booster, the Legion wish to continue their mission and kill him so his Chronal and Omega energies release and Darkseid is finally freed. Booster, however, decides if they want that power, they can have it, unleashing a huge shockwave of the energies that blast the Legion back into the timeline and away from them. Trapper is surprised at the power, telling Booster that he is the only one who seems to be able to travel both time and the Absolute, so maybe he's more powerful than they realized, and this could be the key to holding off Darkseid. Booster wants to tell Superman, but Trapper doesn't think his power is strong enough to return them to the Watchtower. Luckily, Flash has come along for the ride, and he has some experience with getting lost in time, and he knows the way home. I kind of feel like this was like the only reason Flash was here, like it didn't really need to be him. It could have been literally any other character, but it was him just for this moment right here, because he didn't really do anything, special throughout the issue. He just kind of hung around and watched what was going on. I will say though, it's really quite cool. It's giving Booster and Time Trapper a much bigger part in the story than I imagined though, and I do wonder if Booster is going to die in this story, since how Darkseid comes back, he's got to die, and we've seen Darkseid does indeed come back in some way, so that square needs to be circled, and they keep mentioning that he has to die for these energies to be released, so I imagine it's going to lead up to some heroic sacrifice or something. Flash manages to get them out of time itself, with the heroes' minds trying to perceive the white void they fell into and how to comprehend it, showing them past, present, and future things like the Crisis of Infinite Earths, Omax, and Superboy Prime fighting the Justice League. Flash realizes that time itself is on fire as he gets them home, making Trapper hope that the hero finally understands, since the war ahead is one that they will lose, and the best way that they can survive is to move backwards into the past and keep running. Booster again knows that he's wrong, knowing that Trapper is scared of something beyond Darkseid. Back in the past, Ursa and Lara escape the Doom Hounds by tricking them with the jetpack, causing them to chase it in the other direction as they escape in the opposite direction. Ursa warns Lara never to talk about this again, since they would surely be arrested, and Lara agrees that the secret stays with them. In the present, Trapper tells Booster and Flash that there is an ancient prophecy that says that he was created as a weapon to defeat Darkseid. He knows though that he is a weapon that still has to be armed by another person though. This is such a fucking cool reveal. Doomsday's entire point, his entire existence of creation has been completely changed, and now he is made to fight Darkseid. He was bred to stop the evil in the universe in its tracks. It's also great it's set in a way that shows that Trapper is kinda scared of the future and what it holds, scared of change and what he will do and what he will become. He doesn't want to be that new thing and doesn't want that new thing to happen to him, which is oddly ironic, being that there was a point where he was that new thing, and it goes back to what I was saying before about him and Booster Gold being different parts of the 90s and representing the new and the old. It's a brilliant reframing of that and puts him on the back foot, and he gets to kind of experience what he was fighting against back then. Booster wants him to tell the League what he told them, since no matter how scary, that thing is still coming for them and they need to be ready. Time Trapper feels hope is just an illusion as he returns time to its normal speed. Before Superman can talk, Booster tells him about Time Trapper and how he needs to show him something. Back on Krypton, Ursa reveals she took one of the data pads from the destroyed lab they found, knowing that it talked about a coming threat and how an ultimate weapon was needed to defeat it, and she thought that Krypton could use a weapon in its future. She gives a pad to Lara, who checks it out, finding the translation she made was actually wrong. It didn't mention anything about a ultimate weapon. It called Doomsday the absolute champion. As in the present, Time Trapper tells Superman that if he wants to fight against Darkseid, they must all work together. But can the Man of Steel do that? What an ending. Doomsday's entire lore has been completely rewritten here and reframed, as he was meant to be a hero for the universe of some kind until something happened, something changed him, and he went on his murderous rampage. So I'm very much looking forward to finding out what exactly that was. Like, what is Williamson and Scott Snyder and all of these other writers have in store for Doomsday? Because it's got to be something like pretty amazing if they're involving him this heavy in the storyline and not just having him as like this tangential side character who pops in every now and then. I can't wait to see what his role in the DC KO event is. The Omega Act issue 1 was a damn fine final prelude to DC KO, laying out all of the story. In case you hadn't read either Justice League Unlimited or Superman, you get kind of the broad strokes and what's been going on, while also dishing out a brand new storyline and exciting lore dump for Doomsday, Krypton, and Darkseid, all of which are tied together in some way, and which DC KO will be exploring more of, which I can't wait for. Williamson also did some really neat parallels with Time Trapper and Booster Gold, both products of the 90s representing different ends of the hero-villain spectrum, and the similarities he explored ever so briefly this issue were certainly very interesting and something I would very much like to see happen again, especially with Time Trapper. It's, as I said before, it's the most, and if any at all, character development that Doomsday has had since he was created. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.